Hey, this is Squishy, and welcome to the Norushen raid guide for the 10-man normal difficulty. Norushen is a single-phase fight that involves a solo aspect tailored to your specific role. The boss will summon multiple adds that the raid must deal with. We recommend bringing 2 tanks, 3 healers, and a balanced DPS composition. Norushen has a hardened rage of 7 minutes where he will instantly wipe the entire raid. Let's start with an overview. Talk to Norushen to begin the encounter, where he will lock the raid inside a quarantine zone. He then manifests an amalgamation of corruption, and the encounter ends when it is defeated. The amalgamation is stationary and cannot be moved. There are 2 realms to this fight: the normal realm, which the players start in, and the test realm. Players have the extra action bar throughout the fight, and it represents the player's corruption level. Players begin the encounter with 75 corruption and are able to have a maximum of 100 corruption. They are able to cleanse themselves by performing a test suited to their role in the raid, that is tanking, DPSing, or healing. Players initiate the test by clicking on an orb on one of the walls of the room. If completed within the time limit, this brings them down to 0 corruption and gain a buff called Purified, granting players an increase in damage and healing while it remains. The idea is to get as many of the players purified before burning the boss. The test of reliance is given to a healer spect character when they click on an orb. This test involves killing the ad inside. There are a couple of NPCs to aid you with DPS, but the main NPC, that is the one tanking the mob, will deal more damage in direct proportion to his current health. The test of Serenity is given to a DPS spect character. This test spawns multiple adds which must be killed to finish the test. Whenever you kill an add, it will spawn in the normal realm for your raid to deal with. The test of Confidence is given to a tank spect character. The tank must survive for 1 minute against a Titanic corruption. The tank must interrupt hurl corruption to avoid taking a large amount of damage, dodge the frontal cone of Titanic Smash, and mitigate enough damage to survive. Before the fight begins, the raid should set up a rotation for players to take their tests. There are many ways to group players, and we killed the boss with the following groups. Group 1 and 2 should both have a tank and DPS. Group 3 through 5 should have a healer and DPS. Each test takes up to 1 minute in length, and 2 players can take the test at the same time. 1 orb spawns on each side of the arena in the locations marked by the raid markers in the video. Make sure that each member in the group knows which orb they're clicking on. For the healer challenge, healers must prioritize healing themselves and the main NPC, that is the one tanking the boss, over the others. There is constant damage in the phase, as well as a magic debuff that is applied to a player or an NPC. Healers have 10 seconds to find and dispel the debuff before it inflicts massive damage. There is also a void zone that the healer must stay out of that spawns once every 20 seconds. The void zone deals a lot of damage, and the healer must move out of it as soon as possible. Keep yourself and the NPCs alive, and when you kill the ad, you will be purified and be teleported out. Note that the NPCs will not appear in your raid frames, but will appear in the boss frame on the right side of the screen. For the tanking challenge, tanks must survive against the Titanic corruption for 1 minute. The tank must interrupt the ability Hurl Corruption, and be careful not to use your interrupt on any other cast. It is not feasible to kite the ad, as the tank needs to interrupt Hurl Corruption at a moment's notice. The ad will also cast Titanic Smash in a cone in front of him, which will deal a large chunk of damage if hit. The ad will also stack a dot on the player for every successive swing. Use cooldowns to survive the latter end of the trial and to survive Burst of Corruption. For the DPS challenge, DPS are faced against multiple small ads and 1 large ad. The small ads will cast a ball in a straight line. The large ad casts a conal attack that deals a large amount of damage. The small ads have a deflection shield that block attacks from the front. Unique to the DPS challenge, whenever an ad dies, a copy will be summoned in the normal realm for the rest of the raid to deal with. DPS should kill one ad at a time to not flood the normal realm, prioritizing the large ad first and the little ads last. If possible, let your raid know when the large ad is going to die so the tanks can be ready to taunt the ad the second it appears. When all ads are dead, you will be ported to the normal realm and purified. Note that if you run out of time, all remaining ads will be instantly released to the normal realm. In the normal phase, players should remain stacked because of Icy Fear, which pulses AoE damage and increases as the amalgamation's health decreases. Additionally, the boss will use Unleashed Anger on his primary target, dealing a large chunk of damage and applying a debuff that increases the damage of Unleashed Anger by 40% per stack. Tanks should aim to tank swap at about 4 stacks of the debuff. The boss will also summon a beam of corrupted energy that extends outwards. It then slowly rotates in a circle for 30 seconds clockwise or counterclockwise. For the first 50% of the boss's health, players must deal with these 3 mechanics, complete the trial to purify themselves, and deal with ads that spawn from the DPS challenge. Ads will always have priority over the boss, and any damage done to any ad summoned from the DPS challenge will be dealt to the boss. When the large ad spawns, it needs to be picked up by a tank and killed as soon as possible. However, when the ad dies, it leaves a dark orb on the floor that will deal damage every second until a player walks over it and absorbs it. This absorption also gives the player 25 corruption. We assigned our tanks to pick up this dark orb since tank damage was not an issue. The smaller ads do not move and fire a small ball of corruption towards the boss, and if not intercepted, the boss will gain a stacking damage increase for a short time. Any ranged, melee, or healers should stand between the small ad and the boss to intercept the ball. Once the boss reaches 50%, tanks and healers should stop using the orbs to enter the trials, while DPS continue until all of them have completed the trial once. Starting at 50% and every 10% thereafter, the boss will summon a large ad, the exact same ad from the DPS test. Kill the ad as soon as possible to reduce the damage and have a tank pick up the lingering orb. If a tank's corruption is full, he cannot pick up a dark orb, so have a backup healer just in case. For the 10 and 20% ads, the boss will be dealing extreme AoE damage to all players, in addition to the AoE damage from the ads, so make sure to use extreme raid cooldowns for these final 20%. We also recommend using Bloodlust when the 20% ad spawns. Here's a recap of the fight. Assign players into 5 groups, each with a DPS. For the first 50% of the boss's health, groups should take the orbs when they spawn to enter the test. Tanks need to survive using their mitigation, interrupting the ad's hurl corruption, and moving out of bad conal effects. Healers need to heal themselves and the NPCs and try to keep them topped off as much as possible. Make sure to dispel the debuff when it is applied to a target. DPS should kill the ads one at a time and avoid taking extra damage. In the normal realm, players should remain stacked as much as possible, and dodge the corrupted beam that travels in a circle. Tank swap at 4 stacks of the debuff, and prioritize killing the large ads first, and make sure the tank stands on the dark orb to soak it. Kill the small ads after, and block the bolt from hitting the boss. Below 50% health, finish the DPS rotation for the tests, kill the ad that spawns every 10% health, have a tank soak the dark orb that lingers, and use raid cooldowns and Bloodlust when the boss is almost dead. Stay tuned for more Siege of Orgrimmar raid guides. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.